Benjamin Franklin, 1706 to 1790, was not only a great American statesman, but also an exceptional scientist, inventor, writer, philosopher, and entrepreneur. He was one of the founding fathers of the United States, playing a pivotal role in securing the nation's independence and shaping its political system. At the same time, Franklin left an indelible mark on science with groundbreaking inventions, on education with transformative reforms, and on culture with his enlightened ideas. His life stands as a powerful testament to the spirit of self-reliance, relentless learning, and dedication to society. This wasn't some ivory tower intellectual. This was a self-made man, a guy who pulled himself up by his bootstraps and showed the world what grit and ingenuity could achieve. He was the embodiment of that American spirit, that relentless drive to learn, to innovate, to make a difference. Franklin's life? It's a story that sizzles with ambition and achievement. From a humble beginning in Boston, he carved out a legacy that still leaves us in awe. He didn't just stumble into greatness. He built it, brick by brick, idea by idea. Politics. He was right there in the room where it happened, shaping the destiny of a nation. Science. He didn't just theorize. He experimented. He discovered. He changed the way we understand the world. Education. He didn't just acquire knowledge. He shared it. He democratized it. He built the foundations for a more enlightened society. Culture. His words, his ideas, they weren't just ink on paper. They were sparks that ignited a revolution of thought. Benjamin Franklin's life? It's a testament to the power of self-reliance, the relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the unwavering commitment to the common good. He wasn't just a historical figure. He's a living, breathing example of what it means to be an American. Yet, behind that great man lay a childhood filled with hardship, where challenges were not just obstacles, but also the springboard that propelled him to greatness. Before becoming one of the founding fathers of the United States, before his scientific inventions changed the world, and before his enlightened ideas earned global admiration, Benjamin Franklin was simply a poor boy, growing up in a large family with meager meals and burning dreams. Let us turn back the clock and revisit the early days of Franklin's life, where his extraordinary journey began in a small house in Boston. It was there that the young Benjamin learned to overcome adversity with sharp intellect and unyielding determination. His childhood was not just a tale of poverty, but also a lesson in resilience and the relentless pursuit of dreams, no matter how humble the beginnings. Those formative years shaped a man who would never bow to fate, proving that even the smallest spark can ignite a flame capable of lighting the world. Childhood, the poor boy with big dreams. In early 18th century Boston, there was little room for poor children to dream. The bustling port city demanded hard labor from a young age, just to survive. In a cramped house on Milk Street, Benjamin Franklin was born in 1706, the 15th of 17 children in a struggling household. His father, Josiah Franklin, was a candle and soap maker, a grueling trade that barely put food on the table. The sharp, greasy smell of animal fat clung to Josiah's clothes, seeped into the cracks of his rough hands, and lingered in every corner of their tiny home. In that overcrowded space, children squeezed together on worn-out straw mattresses. The older ones gave up their spots for the younger ones, while the little ones often cried in hunger. Meals were meager, thin cornmeal porridge or stale bread that took forever to chew. A single piece of meat had to be divided into many portions. "Tonight, we only have corn porridge, my children," his mother's weary voice echoed through the house. "I'm so tired of corn porridge, Mother," one of his younger siblings whined, his voice laced with frustration and sadness. Franklin stayed silent. He knew complaining wouldn't change anything. He only wished he could help his family, but he was still too young. Having so many children meant not all of them could afford an education. Josiah once hoped Benjamin would become a minister, a profession that could bring the family both respect and stability. "I won't let poverty define my life," young Benjamin promised himself. I will learn. I will explore. I will create great things. But that dream quickly crumbled when his father realized he couldn't afford school fees. At just 10 years old, Benjamin had to leave school, walking away from the books he loved and stepping into the harsh world of labor. The child who taught himself under the flickering candlelight. Leaving school did nothing to extinguish Benjamin's burning thirst for knowledge. He refused to accept his fate. He scoured every book he could get his hands on, whether it was his father's worn-out Bible or philosophical and scientific texts borrowed from the neighbors. With no paper to spare, he scribbled notes on scraps of old newspapers, traced letters into the dust-covered table, and even used charcoal to record his lessons on the ground. On freezing winter nights, long after his family had fallen asleep, Benjamin sat alone under the dim glow of the only candle in their home. He devoured every word, dissecting every idea, his mind hungry for more. But candles were a luxury, not something to be wasted. More than once, he found himself staring helplessly as the last flickering flame died out, forcing him to set aside his studies, swallow his disappointment, and wait for the next night. The printing press and lessons from a harsh world. At 12 years old, in hopes of securing his son's future, Josiah Franklin arranged for Benjamin to apprentice at his older brother James's printing shop. The work was grueling and relentless. Each day, young Benjamin hauled heavy stacks of paper, scrubbed ink-stained printing presses, and painstakingly arranged tiny lead-type pieces. Ink smeared his hands, stained his clothes, and even filled his lungs with its sharp scent. Yet, amidst the back-breaking labor, Benjamin found a hidden treasure: books. James's shop housed a wealth of printed materials from across the colonies. Each night, after finishing his work, he secretly borrowed books, devouring them in the quiet of his room, always careful to return them before anyone noticed. It was during this time that an event would change his life forever. James Franklin's shop published the New England Courant, one of the first independent newspapers in the colonies. Benjamin longed to contribute, but James refused to let him write. Unwilling to be silenced, the young apprentice devised a daring plan. He would submit his articles under a false identity. He created the persona of Silence Dogood, a fictional widow with sharp wit and biting social critiques. Under the cover of night, he slipped his anonymous essays into the printing shop's submission box. To his amazement, his articles were published, drawing widespread admiration from readers who marveled at the intelligence and humor of Mrs. Silence Dogood. When the truth came to light, James was not amused. He was furious. Jealous of his younger brother's talent, he became increasingly harsh, subjecting Benjamin to scoldings and beatings. The once promising apprenticeship turned into a prison. The walls of the shop felt smaller. The ink, once a symbol of knowledge, now felt like chains. And Benjamin knew he couldn't stay forever. Running for freedom. At 17, Benjamin couldn't take it anymore. One dark night, he quietly gathered his few belongings, slipped out of his brother's print shop, and fled Boston. With no money, no family to turn to, he set out on a journey filled with uncertainty, wagering his entire future on luck and sheer determination. After days of hardship, Benjamin arrived in Philadelphia, a city he had never seen before. Exhausted, starving, and nearly collapsing from fatigue, he stumbled through unfamiliar streets. Clutching 3 loaves of bread, bought with his last few coins, he ate as he walked, taking in the sights of this strange new world. The image of a ragged 17-year-old boy, hungry yet hopeful, forever etched itself in the memories of those who saw him that day. No one could have imagined that this penniless runaway would one day become one of the greatest minds in American history. But it was in those days of struggle, those long nights reading by flickering candlelight, and those determined footsteps on the streets of Philadelphia that an extraordinary Benjamin Franklin was forged. And so, ladies and gentlemen, these were the opening scenes, the frames filled with hardship, painting the portrait of Benjamin Franklin's childhood. A boy who grew up in poverty, yet never lost the fire of aspiration, never allowed hardship to extinguish his will to rise. The harsh trials forged a steel spirit, an unwavering determination, a man who would never yield to fate. But the story of Benjamin Franklin doesn't end with those pages of hardship. From the ashes of a destitute childhood, a new flame ignited, urging him to rise, to become a talented journalist, a sharp pen with the power to stir hearts and change a society. In the next part, we will witness the extraordinary journey, filled with turning points and triumphs, of Benjamin Franklin, from a young man full of ambition to a powerful journalist, a spiritual leader, a man who greatly influenced the destiny of a nation. Don't miss the next scenes, where we will discover the wonders written by the pen of an extraordinary man. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and look forward to the surprises ahead.